my pops used to teach at FAMU. My mother is a graduate of their grad school.
And you went there as well, right?
Correct. And that's the only thing that kept me from getting expelled was a lot of the people that were adjudicating my status, in terms of suspension or expulsion. There were a lot of people who had my back. Right. Probably people I don't even know or who will never be named to this day, who had my back.
Thank God.
Off connects from my parents, right? Yep. So I started doing stand-up during the suspension. That's how I got into comedy. I come back after the suspension and I want to get an internship. You have to work at the campus radio station to get credit for your broadcast degree. Mm-hmm. The only slots available were weekend slots. All the other students had signed up for all the weekday slots. I can't work weekends because I'm fucking on the road. Mm. But I gotta get this credit. And around the same time, there was a radio station that was starting up in Tallahassee. And I listened to them every morning. And the thing I noticed is that they didn't offer news. Well, if it's one thing I know how to do, I know how to read the news. I saw my dad, I know that every morning show needs news. Every Black morning show needs a news person. Mm-hmm. So I rode my bike up to the station and I waited for them to get off the air at 10. And I asked this gentleman, Van Wilson, who was the host and the program director of the station. I just volunteered, hey man, can I come here 3 times a week and just read the news in the morning on the, 5 after and 35 after? And he said, absolutely. And that was the beginning of my career in radio that ran about 15 years. And, Van, the thing that really helped with that, and this gets into the comedy aspect of it, I was doing the news because that's what I knew. That's journalism, blah, blah, blah. At the same time, this is the rise of Black, 98 is we're in the apex of the Black comedy boom. So the idea of Black comedians being on the radio and tearing up stuff and really being hilarious. J. Anthony Brown is hitting his stride on Tom Joyner. At this time, Russ Parr is having comedians on the regular. Parr, yeah. And so, the local show in Tallahassee, they hire a local comic who happens to be a school teacher. So at 8:00, he got a dip. So on the days that I could stay late.
Why not you?
I got to slide right in. And so essentially 6 to 8 was me watching William Gilmore is his name. My first mentor in the comedy and radio space. Gilmore, I get to watch him for 2 hours, how he navigates humor, how he thinks about jokes, how he moves things around. And then 8 to 10, I get to do it too. And so that was how I started working the muscle of being funny on the air. And that was my thing. So I would do the stories, then I would pick one story that I knew I had jokes about.
Smart.
So that's no different than The Daily Show. It's literally what a correspondent does on The Daily Show. Here's a news story. Now here's why I'm going to make it funny and tell you why it's bullshit. That was my thing. So that's how the radio journey started. And so then I get to Birmingham and essentially I'm able to take the audition, the audio tapes that I have from my time in Tallahassee or the internship I created is what got me the job replacing Ricky Smiley in Birmingham.
Where does the Buck Wild show figure in all of this?
That's where that started. That's where that was
the beginning, right? Okay, I didn't hear the name. Yeah.
So the Buck Wild morning show, and it's not the same Buck Wild from Star and Buck Wild. It's a different Buck Wild. Okay. But this guy Buck was the morning show host in Birmingham, and he was the man. He was the guy. And there were people before him, but he was the guy that had ushered in the rise of Ricky Smiley. And at this point, Ricky's a star. Ricky's left Birmingham to start the show that eventually became what we know today, as the Ricky Smiley morning show, the syndicated show.
Right.
I go through, I don't know, probably 2 weeks of back and forth with the Buck Wild Morning Show of trying to get on the show. I eventually lie my way on and get an internship. And anything that they needed to do, I did. And while at the same time, I was also still on the road as a stand-up. And it was a beautiful time, man. I slept 4 hours a night. Some nights, like I would do the show till 10 in the morning and then drive 4 hours to a city to go do a show that night, nap after the show till midnight or 1, get back in my car, drive 4 hours back to Birmingham to be on the air the next day. I did that for at least 5 years. If the gig was within 5 hours of Birmingham, I called them quick flips. I'm just going there and back. You do the math and lay it on paper, it's still just an 18, 19-hour day. That ain't no different than you just being up all day.
And what is this, like 2000, 2001, or late 90s?
2001 like, through about 06.
Okay.
That was the real radio grind years. And so being on that show gave me an opportunity to watch the best stand-up comedian. Birmingham, Alabama, as a entertainment market, books the same names as any city you can name. The same names come through Birmingham.
Right.
So I got to watch all of my comedy heroes come in and do radio, and it really made me a student of stand-up comedy. But what started happening was Ricky had created such a lane for himself stylistically that I had to kind of go, another way. And what I just kept coming back towards was just the news. I like the news. I find it interesting. I've always grown up around it. I wonder if there's ways to make the news funny. So now I'm doing a comedic version of what I was doing for real in college.
Right.
And like hood report news, coming up with fake news, but
like
reading it in a real news voice. Yeah. Yes.
But wait, also around this time, I mean, everyone knows about you doing Last Comic Standing when you placed, but you did it a couple times prior. And wasn't like the first time around this time?
Yeah, 2004. 2004, I did not get past the daytime auditions. It was bad, bro. And then 2007, I got to the semifinals, which was like the second round, and I was still on the radio and I was still doing my thing, but I'm building two things at the same time was kind of the idea, because I didn't want to take my foot off of either gas.
Right.
At the time I thought radio would build into this beautiful syndicated thing, but it never really congealed for me. But stand up, over the course of that same from 2001 to 2007, I did Apollo, I did Comic View 3 times, I did Comedy Central, I did David Letterman in 2006, I did Def Jam. I did a whole run of building my stand-up, building a name for myself in stand-up, while at the same time still being entrenched in radio. The thing about radio, local radio in Birmingham, is that we were a local station. And so we were always at community events. And so it is impossible to be constantly in the Black community and be a part of an organization that's helping to solve problems, or we're partnering with the organizations that are addressing real issues in the Black community.
Sure.
And that not leave something on you.
It's impossible.
And so then that's when my stand-up started to transition a little bit, because it's when you're young, you tell people what you think because you ain't seen nothing. And then when you get older and you mature as a stand-up, you tell people what you saw and what you thought about what you saw.
Observational comedy.
Yeah. Or it's about yourself. I've looked at myself, and here are the things that I have observed about myself. Comedy's either inward or outward. The pros are able to switch between both effortlessly, or do a joke that informs you about both at the same time. Like those are the golden childs, the Pryors and the Chappelles of it all. So like that to me was kind of where my stand-up and the civics and the politics and how the world works or doesn't work started from, was 1000% in radio. It just took time to find it. So then you fast forward to like, say, 2010 or 2011, where I'm hosting the morning show now. Well, now I am my father.
You literally are.
I care about the exact same things he cares about. I want to tell stories that benefit and inform the exact same group of people. The only difference is I tell a couple jokes along the way.
How did that feel like?
That's it.
Seeing him and you in that regard, like since that wasn't the end game, so to speak, was it comfortable and cool, or were you like, was it a little bit of an internal battle in a way because you wanted to be in your own lane, separate from your dad?
It's still a battle. Yeah, it's still a battle. You spend all your life trying to get out of somebody's shadow, and then you just have to accept that. Oh wait, no, you never escape the shadow. You just have to be your own self.